What if I told you that the planet of 4546b was a real place? What if I told you the leviathans and the horrors that you fear actually exist? How would you react? As humanity begins to explore the cosmos, we've started to uncover some pretty interesting places. Exoplanets with winds up to 6,000 miles per hour, giant planets so close to their star that their very atmosphere is slowly being ripped off and sucked into the star, and planets whose surface temperature is over 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But to me, some of the most interesting of these amazing exoplanets are those that could possibly contain liquid water, places that could consist of oceans that entirely cover the planet, planets that harbor life. Sounding familiar? Today, we're going to be looking at these places, planets similar to 4546b that could possibly harbor life, the planets that are closest to the beautiful planet 4546b. So without further ado, let's jump right in. The very first place astronomers look for water and possibly life is within our own solar system. The two planets closest to Earth, Mars and Venus, likely had liquid water on their surfaces at one point in time. The water on Venus likely evaporated due to the large amounts of the greenhouse gas found on Earth as well, carbon dioxide. This gas accumulated within Venus's atmosphere, heating up the planet to what it is today, an average of 880 degrees Fahrenheit or 471 degrees Celsius. As for Mars, it was unable to retain the water presence on its surface because it was too small. During the formation of the solar system, Jupiter, because of its large mass, stole many of the materials that would have eventually clumped into Mars. This left the planet a lot smaller than Earth, specifically around half the size of Earth. Mars was so small that it was vulnerable to the solar wind emitted by the sun. The solar wind stripped the planet of its atmosphere, taking all the water with it. However, there are some other places in the solar system that could possibly have water and maybe even life. The first places we're going to be looking at is the moons of Jupiter. Many of these moons could have oceans beneath their surfaces. The first moon, and in my opinion the most interesting and a likely candidate for life in our solar system, is Europa. Europa is the smallest of the four Galilean moons discovered by the famous astronomer Galileo Galilei of Jupiter. It has a thin atmosphere consisting of mostly oxygen as well as a crust made of mostly ice. Nevertheless, it is very possible that there could be an ocean underneath this layer of ice, possibly containing extraterrestrial life. And there's really no telling what this life could look like. Take a moment to imagine the grotesque creatures that could live there, miles beneath the ice, never having seen the sun. It is certainly terrifying to think about, but we are still unsure whether life even exists there. But it is possible that geothermal activity could heat up the water, allowing life to exist there using chemosynthesis or another similar process. Another really interesting fact about the moon Europa is that the Hubble Space Telescope detected plumes of water shooting out of the surface of the moon, which could hint at an ocean beneath its surface. And of all the moons we're going to be discussing, I personally think this moon is the most likely candidate for extraterrestrial life. Another one of the Galilean moons is Ganymede, which is the largest moon in the solar system. One thing that makes this a really promising candidate is its magnetic field, which means it's protected from the harmful rays from the sun that likely stripped Mars of its atmosphere. It, similarly to Europa, could have a saltwater ocean beneath its surface, and I simply can't stress enough how terrifying the creatures that could inhabit this ocean would be. Another similar moon to the previous two moons is Callisto. It has an extremely cratered surface and could possibly contain water under the surface and maybe even life. Orbiting the planet Saturn, there are some more interesting moons that could possibly contain liquid water. First, the moon Enceladus could have an ocean beneath the extremely thick layer of ice on its surface. And this subterranean ocean is what likely feeds the amazing jets of water which spew out from the planet. The moon Titan could also have a subsurface ocean, although scientists think the water would be extremely salty as the Dead Sea on Earth. This means it is likely not suitable for life, although you never truly know. Neptune has a moon named Triton that could also contain liquid water. However, this isn't as likely due to the fact that the plumes that erupt from the planet consist of nitrogen, and the fact that the moon is located extremely far away from the sun, making the moon very cold. But it is still a possibility. The poor dwarf planet Pluto, demoted from the status of planet, could actually have a subterranean ocean beneath its crust. It's a surprisingly active place, more active than astronomers originally thought. However, once again, because it is so far away from the sun, it is likely to be too cold for liquid water. Now let's get into what you all really have been waiting for. Let's talk about exoplanets. Exoplanets are planets that orbit another star besides the sun. These places are usually detected using the light emitted from the sun. When an exoplanet moves in front of a star in its normal revolution, it blocks them of the light from the star. Using this, we can detect most of the planets surrounding a given star. We can also measure their size. To determine other details about the planet requires other various technologies which can get very complicated. And I must point out this isn't the only method of discovering exoplanets, but this is the most common method used. But now, let's go over some of the exoplanets that could contain water and discover which ones are the most similar to 4546b. One of the most interesting planetary systems we currently know of is the system of planets that revolve around Kepler-62. The star is roughly 69% the mass of the Sun, and the system is located around 1,200 light-years away from Earth. Of the 5 planets we know of orbiting this star, 2 of them are found in the habitable zone. The habitable zone is an area surrounding a star where the temperature is not too hot and not too cold. This means that 2 of these planets could have water and possibly even life on them. First, let's talk about Kepler-62e. Kepler-62e is 4.5 times the mass of Earth and rotates Kepler-62 every 122 days. It is classified as a super-Earth due to the fact that it is similar to Earth in many ways, only larger. And this planet is one of the top candidates for life. It is located farther forward in the habitable zone than Kepler-62f, meaning it would be a bit cooler than its neighbor. Farther back in the habitable zone lies Kepler-62f, which is a little cooler than 62e. It rotates its star every 267 days and is 2.8 times the mass of Earth. Remember that both of these planets still need further research to truly determine whether or not they are habitable. But these planets are some of the best candidates for life, and it's definitely a possibility that these planets could be covered in water. Could one of these planets be the place that Subnautica takes place in? It is certainly interesting to think about, and as astronomers continue to explore and discover, we will uncover more about these amazing planets in the future. Another interesting system with a planet in its habitable zone is Kepler-22. Kepler-22 is a Sun-like star. Inside the habitable zone of this star lies Kepler-22b, another super-Earth with a mass 36 times the mass of Earth that could contain water and maybe even life. It is located about 587 light-years away from Earth, and it orbits its star every 290 days. If you are wondering what the measurement of a light-year is, it is the distance it takes light to travel 1 year. And light travels at 186,282 miles per second. If you do the math, you find that a light year is 5,874,589,152,000 miles. Kepler-22b likely has a different composition than Earth, but this doesn't necessarily rule out the possibility for extraterrestrial life. It is also possible that the exoplanet is covered in water. Maybe this is the planet that Subnautica takes place on. I think it's less likely. Another likely candidate for extraterrestrial life is the planet Kepler-452b, which orbits the Sun-like star Kepler-452. This star is very similar to our own Sun in many ways, including mass and temperature. Kepler-452b is actually known as Earth's cousin, which says a lot, and is located 1,402 light-years away from Earth. Unfortunately, it is a lot larger than Earth, causing some astronomers to think it is a small gas giant instead of a super-Earth. But other factors, including the size of its radius, point that it could be a terrestrial planet. And if it is indeed a super-Earth, as it is located in the habitable zone of Kepler-452, it is possible that the planet could house water and maybe even life. Another extremely interesting exoplanet astronomers have discovered orbits the very Sun-like star Kepler-69. Located around 2,700 light-years away from Earth, Kepler-69c is an exoplanet located a little farther forward in the habitable zone than Earth. Each orbit takes 242 days. Astronomers think it is likely that this planet could be covered in a global ocean. One even joked there could be dolphins there. However, there may be one slight problem. Because of Kepler-69's location in the habitable zone, it may be more like Venus, and may be more exposed to solar radiation. And some astronomers think that this would cause it to be less likely to contain life, and that it should be classified as a super-Venus instead of a super-Earth. But nevertheless, this planet is still one of the best candidates for extraterrestrial life that we know of. Maybe it contains horrific leviathan-class organisms similar to those in Subnautica. If you're wondering why so many exoplanets are named after Kepler, it is because that is the name of the space-based telescope they were discovered by. And why is the telescope named Kepler? Because he's the one who got the math right to show that Earth really does move around the Sun. Around the red dwarf star K218 lies another likely candidate. Like the others, K218b orbits its star in the habitable zone, meaning it could possibly contain liquid water and maybe even life. Astronomers have also detected water vapor in the atmosphere of K218b as well, increasing the odds of life existing there. However, this planet is very different from Earth in many ways. It is roughly 8 times more massive than Earth and orbits its sun in a super speedy 33 days. And speaking of its sun, it's a red dwarf, meaning it's a lot dimmer than our sun. It also happens to be tidally locked, meaning there is no day-night cycle. This also means the sun is always shining on one side of the planet and it's always night on the other side of the planet. the best place for life to live on this planet would be in the permanent strip of twilight separating the two sides of the planet. Scientists do think the temperature range would be similar to Earth, however, but nobody really knows for sure what this planet is like. But it is certainly possible that some forms of life could exist here. Gliese 581c is a super-Earth exoplanet that resides within the Gliese 581 system. It is located around 20 light-years away from Earth, making it even closer to our home than K218b. It also resides in the habitable zone in an orbit similar to that of Venus. It is 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth, which could mean its atmospheric composition, as well as a few other things could be different to Earth's. Similarly to K218b, it is really close to its sun, rotating it around every 13 days, which leads astronomers to believe it is tidally locked. These factors, and the fact that it is very close to its star, leave some to think it is not habitable. It is also possible that, similarly to Venus, it could house a runaway greenhouse effect, but we really don't know for sure. And who knows, maybe life does exist on this exoplanet after all. There are a few other exoplanets orbiting Gliese 581, however, many of them are disputed by astronomers and may not even exist. If these disputed planets do in fact exist, one of them may be more likely to have life than Gliese 581c, and that is Gliese 581g. This planet may be more similar to Earth than Gliese 581c. One final star system of possibly habitable planets we'll be covering today is the TRAPPIST-1 system. The star of the system, TRAPPIST-1, is an ultra-cool dwarf star that is significantly smaller than our own sun. It is located around 40 light-years away from Earth, and it is possible that 4 of the 7 known planets surrounding it could potentially harbor liquid water and possibly even life. First, let's start with TRAPPIST-1d. TRAPPIST-1d is a small rocky planet about 30% the size of Earth that rotates on the inner edge of the system. However, it is still inside the habitable zone, making life a possibility on the planet. But it is also possible that the planet could be subject to the runaway greenhouse effect seen on Venus. And remember, the star it revolves around is significantly different than our sun, which may affect the chances of life on its surface. It would have a similar temperature to Earth, however, and if liquid water did exist on its surface, there would be a lot more of it than there is on Earth. Its neighbor, TRAPPIST-1e, is almost Earth-sized and is like it in many ways. The atmosphere as well as the temperature is very similar as well. This planet may have the greatest chance of being an Earth-like ocean planet. However, it may also be tidally locked. Even so, of all the planets in this system, TRAPPIST-1e is the most likely to house life. TRAPPIST-1f also rotates in the habitable zone and is roughly 2/3 the mass of Earth. However, it is located pretty far back in the habitable zone, so it would be significantly colder than TRAPPIST-1e. It is also covered in a massive gaseous envelope of an atmosphere causing great temperature and pressure, so it's pretty unlikely that life exists on its surface. It is also likely to be tidally locked. TRAPPIST-1g is located in the optimistic habitable zone, meaning some astronomers consider it not to be located in the habitable zone and others consider it to be inside the habitable zone. If life existed on this planet, it would be under a layer of ice, similar to the moons that orbit Jupiter in our solar system. Also, it's really important to point out that there are many other moons, similar to those in our own solar system, and maybe even moons of the exoplanets we talked about, that could possibly have life as well. Not to mention the millions of planets we simply don't know about that could possibly have life. These are but a few of the many candidates for extraterrestrial life. But which one of the planets we talked about today is the closest to the planet 4546b in Subnautica? Well, first, we must go over a few things about 4546b itself. It is located on the outer reaches of Ariane's Arm, which I'm pretty sure is a made-up location, meaning we don't know its true location. It rotates the star 4546, and the B in its name means it is the first planet discovered in the system. 4546a would be the star it orbits. Revolving around it are 2 moons, one which appears to be extremely close to the planet. As we all know, the planet is almost entirely covered in water. The PDA entry on the planet classifies it as a Class 3 ocean planet. This likely just means that water covers the entire planet. The atmosphere, similarly to Earth's, consists of mostly nitrogen and oxygen, and as we all know, it contains extensive biodiversity. So which of these planets is the best match? Based on what we've learned, I'm going to be ranking the top 3 exoplanets that are the closest to 4546b. Number 3. Coming in third, we have Kepler-62e and f. As you may recall, Kepler-62 houses 2 possible places where life could exist. If one planet isn't home to life, maybe the other planet is. Both exoplanets are also very similar to Earth in many ways. The next 2 are really close. I feel like either of them could be home to life. But anyhow, coming in second we have Kepler-69. Kepler-69 is almost identical to Earth. However, because of its location in the habitable zone, it could be more like Venus than Earth. And coming in first is the TRAPPIST-1 system. The main reason this system is most likely is because there are 4 places that could possibly be home to life. TRAPPIST-1e is also extremely similar to Earth, and the only thing possibly leading astronomers away from this planet is the fact that it could be tidally locked. Also, I have skipped a few other exoplanets that could house life. These are just a few I found interesting. Let me know if I missed any important ones. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comment section below. Want to see a part 2? Any questions or concerns? Please let me know. I hope your brains are not too overloaded with knowledge. And as always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, it helps me at a ton, plus it's free. Help me reach 2,000 subscribers as fast as possible. Check out my other Subnautica content, you may like it. Check out my Discord server, Twitch, and Patreon. The links are in the description. Thanks to my patrons, King Nocho, Sir Lord Mister, and Charles the Bold Action Man. Become a patron and support today, and I will see you guys in the next video.